Now we want to discuss two sorts of responses to why the principal agent model doesn't work too well and what we can do about it. The first is a bunch of theories which have been collectively described as corruption equilibrium theories. They say that societies can get stuck in high corruption equilibria, and what that means is that when a lot of people are corrupt, then the calculations behind the principal agent model change. Because if you have a lot of corruption going on, then information about corruption might not help, because the probability of an individual being punished declines if there are lots of individuals who are corrupt. Think of it like if you're in a very rowdy class and everybody is talking at the same time, then the student who breaks the rules and starts talking is very unlikely to be punished if there's everybody else talking as well. Whereas if the class is quiet, the student who starts talking is not only likely to get noticed, but is also likely to get punished. One of the problems with a lot of corruption is that the individual calculations of being identified and punished become different. And you're less worried if you're corrupt of being caught. So if you're in a high equilibrium, a high corruption equilibrium, then the standard principal agent model doesn't work because principals don't know who to go after and agents are happily corrupt most of the time. The policy implication of this is that to get out of this, a standard transparency accountability process won't work. You need to have a big bang which simultaneously takes society from a high corruption to a low corruption position. And that requires a massive push which will take society to that position. And small incremental transparency accountability reforms won't work. This sounds appealing, except that it's been tried and it doesn't work too well. Think of the Arab Spring, think of Indonesia after Suharto, or the Philippines after Marcos. There are lots of examples where countries try to do a big bang on their corruption, and after a while they revert back to the old corruption. There seems to be something missing here about the power and capabilities of the people in society to keep you at the low corruption equilibrium. It might not just be a numbers game, but also something to do with the nature of the organizations and their capabilities. And we will come to that later when we discuss our own approach of power capabilities and interests. The other response is a bunch of theories which have been described as social norms theories. And they also try to explain why societies get stuck in high corruption equilibria, but they are not just looking at the numbers of violators, but something else. Social norms refer to the expectations people have about how others will behave. And this is really important in trying to understand behavior. If I believe that you are corrupt, if I expect you to behave in a corrupt way, then I will behave in a corrupt way with you, because if I don't, I will be cheated. If people have an expectation that others are already corrupt, then that affects their behavior. But social norms theories sometimes say even more than that. They're not just saying that high corruption societies have social norms where everyone expects everyone to be corrupt. They're also saying that sometimes these social norms, which are expectations of corruption, might be sustained by sanctions from people who punish people who are not corrupt. Now, that's a very strong statement. And how might that work? Well, think of a situation where you don't have enough jobs in society, and if someone from your group, your political party, your tribe, your ethnicity, or your religion has become a bureaucrat or someone in power, you expect that person to give jobs to your community. Now, that's corruption, but it's a social expectation that that's how things work. And the bureaucrat who doesn't give jobs to their community, kin, ethnicity, or party might suffer sanctions when they go home because people might not deal with them or transact with them or be kind to them. And that sanction might sustain that social norm. Then you have a serious problem where not only do people expect people to be corrupt, because everyone is corrupt, my group has to be corrupt to sustain our position, and those of our group who aren't corrupt get sanctioned. An extreme form of that would be the mafia, where the mafia have norms within them and they punish people who break those norms. And then the behavior of the mafia is systematically corrupt. Our problem with social norms theories is, what do you do about it? Is it enough to talk about it and tell people that their social norms, that their beliefs about others are damaging to society and they should start thinking in that way? If you do that, you're not actually addressing why people are behaving in this way. You're not giving them alternatives which can be enforced. And if you just tell them that this is damaging behavior, they already know that, and it doesn't really help. So messaging programs often have a limited impact in developing countries because you can message people that their expectations are damaging, but if the real interests of the powerful mafias in that society are to continue with that behavior, then this doesn't help. So there are two things to remember about social norms. One is that the good social norms, the idea that you should be honest and true and not cheat, actually exist in all societies. It is not that these ideas do not exist in developing countries. It's a big mistake to think that we need to tell people that these are the social norms that they should have. They have it already. The problem is that the real behavior in terms of material interest, survival, and so on, require people to violate norms that they already have. You have to give them real opportunities and real alternatives where they can make a living without breaking rules. That will then actually change behavior. This is the first problem. It's not just a normative issue, it's an issue of real interests and opportunities in society. The second problem with social norms that we often face is that not everybody in society have the damaging norms that we're talking about. So again, think of the mafia. The mafia have damaging norms, but the rest of society don't have those norms. It's a big mistake to think that everybody in a developing society has problematic social norms. Some people do. But the people who do are benefiting so much from those behaviors and from their group activity that telling them that they have these norms isn't going to change anything, whereas the others have no power to change the behavior of the mafia in their midst. So if you go into a developing country and you observe mafia-like behavior, bureaucrats being partisan, some people getting jobs, others not getting jobs, if you say this is happening, the people who are doing it know that it's happening, and the people who are not getting their jobs also know it's happening, but it can just raise frustration even more because you're not giving a solution to how to get out of this trap. So whereas we think that social norms are a correct description of how societies are behaving, it doesn't really tell us in a policy sense how you can break up these groups and how you can get to better social norms by organizing people in different ways. Both these explanations that I've just talked about, which are responses to the principal agent problem, the equilibrium analysis and the social norms analysis, are not wrong. It's just that the policy implications that they come up with are not feasible in themselves. We need to go beyond that and find feasible ways of intervening to find ways of actually changing behavior which are aligned with the real interests of people and not just what they believe or what they think.